The new out with the old. It's a common saying in football, and I think it rings true very much so for us football fans. We can be very reactionary. When we have a couple of losses and stuff, we do look. First thing we look at is probably the manager. The next thing we look at is the players, or maybe even the players we look at first as to who should be starting, who's causing the problems in the team. And there's three main individuals I think that are getting a lot of stick at the moment, and it's Mikel Antonio, it's Naya Fagerd, and it's Thomas Souček. So today we're going to be talking through those three players, the alternatives to them, and just talking through whether we're being maybe a little bit harsh on them or whether maybe Moyes does need to make a change. So the first player we're going to be talking about is Mikel Antonio. Now, I believe Mark is going to be doing a more in-depth video on him, so I don't want to talk about him too much, but all I will say on Mikel Antonio is, listen, he can be comical at times. He can make some very weird movements on the ball. I think specifically in the Villa game, he came wide quite a few times, and you can tell that's an instruction by David Moyes. And his delivery was terrible. It was really, really bad. And I think at some point we should just have said to Mickey, look, you're not getting any joy on the wings. Let's just keep it down the middle, keep it nice and simple. And I also think it probably negated one of our biggest assets, which is our fullbacks. Our fullbacks do really well when they get into these big forward areas, when they can make the overlap and get across into the box. And I think when you've got Antonio covering up that space, it creates a problem. And I think the other problem as well is that the reason he's doing it is to free up space for Thomas Souček in the middle, which again I just don't think makes any sense. But he's so crucial to the way we play Mikel Antonio. Most of the time we'll lump the ball up to him, and he will chest the ball down and lay it off to a teammate. And I think that's really crucial to the way we play at the moment. And it has played dividends quite a few times. For instance, in the Villa game, I don't think we did that enough, to be honest, which is quite ironic because that's not something I actually like us to do. But I think trying to bypass the midfield was something we should have tried to do quite a few times, because it's where we lost the ball the most, was in those situations where we were trying to get through the midfield and we just couldn't win that second ball. We just couldn't get that final pass through. So listen, he might not score the most amount of goals and he might not get the most amount of assists, but Mikel Antonio is crucial to the way we play. And then you look at the alternative, Danny Ings. I've said it many a time. Yes, he's a clinical striker, but you've got to think about the player Danny Ings is. If you put the ball in the box on a plate for him, he's going to put it away 9 times out of 10. I mean, I say that, the cup game that he did play, he missed quite a few big chances. He's not the type of player that's going to be able to run in behind and score the way Ollie Watkins did. We need to be able to feed the ball into him, score goals. If he played for Manchester City, maybe be a good player, but the way West Ham play at the moment, we don't have the creativity to craft chances like that. And if we do, they fall to players like Jarrod Bowen. So he's not someone I can consider. And Mubama, I think, needs more game time this year, absolutely, no doubt. But I also think that it's a bit soon to be putting him in the lineup, and he just offers something so different to what we need from Antonio. You need Mubama to have space in behind to run, and that can happen in a few games, and that is something that Moyes needs to implement as a plan B. If the Antonio's not working out, put Mubama on. Maybe we can go 2 strikers up top, and I would love to see Mubama get some more football this year. But for me, I think we're being very harsh on Mikel Antonio. I know when you look at the stats, and I know when you watch the game, you'd be sitting there thinking, what is this clown doing? But I promise you, if you actually think about the way we play and look at the minor movements and look at the way that we set up our team, he's really, really crucial to that. Next player we'll talk about is Thomas Souček. Totally agree. I totally get where you guys are coming from. And I agree. I don't understand why Thomas Souček is in that lineup. You've got Alvarez, right? So Alvarez is he's the guy in front of the back four, shielding the back four, breaking up the play, laying it off. Paqueta, he is essentially our Declan Rice of last season. He's the guy that's going to pick up the ball, drive it forward, or, something that Deck didn't do many times is he's going to lay the ball off and then pick it up in the midfield, slowly working throughout the field, trying to make things happen. And of course, ghosting into the box where need be. Ward-Prowse is just a classic number 8. He goes back and forwards. And again, I think he's quite crucial to the way we play. Thomas Souček, I don't really get his role in the team. He can't pass the ball well enough. He's not getting in the box well enough. He doesn't win those headers. It's not like we're knocking the ball into the box and he's making that last-minute, last-ditch arrival in the box to score. A lot of the times, the reason he scored so much when he started was because he was picking up these late runs into the box. And the way we play at the moment, he's just not able to do that. And don't get me wrong, his numbers are decent this season. And I think he's vastly improved from last season. But I think with the way we play, especially the way we try to, go away from this long ball and try and play it through the midfield and play this sort of tiki-taka football, which, that all comes through Paqueta. You need someone like Mohamed Kudus. You need someone like that that's going to, when Paqueta's being marked or when he's not on the ball, you can then feed it to him and he's just going to drive, because Paqueta's not that player that is going to drive. And we don't have that player in the team unless you feed it to Bowen or feed it to, maybe like a Benrahma on the wing. Currently, you've got Alvarez, who, as I said, sits in the defence, breaks up play, lays it off. Paqueta, he's more of a pass and move play. He tries to make things happen, tries to get us up the pitch. Ward-Prowse, again, he's more of a pass and move player, or just, that guy who's going to pick out that pinpoint pass. We don't have a player that we can just say, right, here's the ball, go, drive at the defence, drive at the midfield, make things happen, get us further up the pitch, have a counter-attack. We don't have that player because he sat on the bench. It's Mohamed Kudus. That is what he can do. You give him the ball and he's going to take it and run. The amount of times when we played TSC that he would pick up the ball in midfield and just drive with the ball, getting in really good positions. Paqueta is not that player. Ward-Prowse is not that player, and neither is Alvarez. And certainly Thomas Souček is not. So I think it gives us that different dimension. It gives it a little bit more balance in the midfield as well, to have someone that's going to be able to drive with the ball and create that counter-attacking football that we need. So Kudus, for me, has to start ahead of Thomas Souček. I've heard a lot of people saying he should start ahead of Antonio. Again, I don't agree with that, and I've already sort of listed the reasons why. The last player is Nayef Aguerd. Now, a lot of people have been asking for him to be dropped and for a very long time, but stats don't necessarily tell the whole picture of football. But I would argue that probably the best defender in the league at the moment is William Saliba. I mean, a lot of people, I think, would recognise him as the best defender. And currently, Aguerd has more blocks, more interceptions, has made 2 less successful tackles, has made 0 last man tackles. He's made 2, has made 13 more clearances, has 6 more headed clearances, has won 5 more aerial battles. And I know a lot of people have said, it's an error. It's an error for Nayef. Like, he's conceded 7 or 8 errors. But according to Oracle, which is the data program that has all the stats in the Premier League, he's committed 0 errors to goal. I think the definition of errors to goal means that you have to have misplaced a pass or be directly liable for the goal. And where we might put some blame on his defending for our goals, specifically an error to goal, he hasn't made yet. And they've both also conceded 1 penalty each. So, listen, I'm sure if you compare, I'm not going to sit here and compare every single player's stats to William Saliba or every player's stats to Nayef Aguerd. I'm sure other players who probably are not as good as Aguerd might have better stats than Saliba, because Arsenal are a better team at defending, they're stronger in the midfield. However, when you look at who is being hailed as the individual best centre-back in the league at the moment, which is Saliba, you compare his numbers to Nayef Aguerd, Nayef beats him in quite a lot of categories. So, listen, stats don't tell the full story of a football match. I know that. I'm not stupid. But I think looking at those individually, it's not like Aguerd is a liability. He's not a Roberto. I do have a think that maybe Mavropanos can come in and do a job at centre-back when Aguerd is not, it's really difficult, because I think that Aguerd got beat far too easily for that Leon Bailey goal. But at the same time, we're 3-1 down. We're not going to win the game. We're not going to get anything out of the game. It's probably just a lapse of concentration, frustration. He's not switched on properly. He allows him to go through quite easily. And I think what the first goal, again, a lot of people blame Aguerd for that, but I can't place the blame specifically on him. I think that's the job of the midfielders to pick up the player on the outside of the box. The third goal as well, Ollie Watkins, I mean, Zuma was on him, so you can't blame him for that one, really. I think that if we had Mavropanos in the team, we'd probably concede just as many goals and have just the same amount of results as if we had Aguerd in the team. But I'm all for trying to give him a shot. He gives us that more physical presence, and there's no harm in dropping a play. You drop him, and another player comes in, doesn't play as well. You've always got your next game, haven't you? And I think Everton's probably a good chance to do that, especially when you think that I would actually like to see Aguerd maybe at left back instead of Emerson, because obviously he's been suspended for that game. So if you do that, then You've got Mavropanos in the team. You've got Aguerd in the team. It's not as harsh. It's not necessarily been dropped. And, you can sort of experiment and see how that's going to go. And I think Aguerd's passing is very much overlooked as well. That is a very big part of his game. But I think to summarise, I don't think we're being reactionary here by wanting some names to be dropped. I can see the Antonio shouts. I can understand where it's coming from. Again, I can see where it's coming from. Souček, I mean, come on, we've been asking for this for a very, very long time. But in my eyes, I think Mohamed Kudus has to start for West Ham at the moment because he gives us that dynamic. He gives us the ability to drive forward. I think it's harsh to drop Antonio at the moment because he's so crucial to our play. And I also think it's quite harsh to drop again, potentially. But like I said, I don't mind him coming in. So Kudus in for me, that is a must. Antonio, undroppable. I don't think he can get dropped. I really don't. And I honestly will die on that hill. He might miss his chances and he might not make as many assists on paper. But I think when you watch a full 90 minutes of Mikel Antonio and really watch him, you see what he does for the team. And I think a lot of people are reading too much into that Villa game. You can have a bad performance. I think someone said in my live stream the other day that if Antonio has a bad game, then the team has a bad game. Like, we just don't play well. And I think, if anything, that just shows how important he is to the way we play. When he's on it, we're playing really well and the team functions. When he's not on it, the team fails to be able to get forward in advanced areas. That doesn't show you how important Mikel Antonio is, then I don't know what will. But listen, let me know in the comments below what you think. Should we be dropping Aguerd, Antonio or Souček, and who would you replace them with? And of course, I'll see you on the next one.